Okay, so I've given you some green wool. Now this stuff I dyed myself. It's just carded rovings. So basically it's just processed sheep wool that was put through a carding machine, which basically ran the fibers in one direction, and it still has a bit of veggie matter in it. It's really thoroughly cleaned. It just has little bits of grass and stuff, so you might see that. So just make sure that you don't even have to pick any of it out. You can pick out big pieces or whatever, but it can just get worked into your owl. It's really just bits of grass and no big deal. But anyway, you can just make it so that it's all gets inside the core of your owl, and then when the outer bits, you'll just want to pick out anything that's exposed to the outside. Anyway, so you're going to take your wool that I have separated for your owl body, and what I want you to do is tie a big knot in it. The knot just helps start the process and makes it much faster to get a nice firm core. And you're going to just keep tying a couple knots around it until you have a nice solid center. This definitely saves you a lot of time, but it does make the core really firm, so it's easy to break a needle. So you want to watch out when you're poking in that area that you poke nice and slowly. But we'll get to that. So I'm just going to tie a couple more knots. You'll also notice the green wool. I dyed it and it has a bit of variation in the color. So you want to think about what color part of it you like best. I don't know how good my camera is, but I have some more aqua-y kind of green over here versus a brighter green over here. So if I was to pull the lighter green off and put it aside, I'm going to save that for the outer part of the owl, the part that you'll see, because that's the color I like. So it's totally up to you. You can choose. I've also added some blue roving that I dyed, and if you prefer to use that for the outside of your owl, feel free to do that. It'll look really pretty either way, the green or the blue. But I've given you the choice, so I just added a little bit of this blue in case you wanted to. But then you have a little bit of extra wool to play with if you don't use it. Okay, so we'll just get to making this core. So now we've got our knots. And so basically when you're starting out a project, you want to make a nice firm core. It makes for much, helps maintain the shape of what you're making. You're basically trying to get rid of the air that's in the wool. So when you take your number 38 needle, which is the one without tape, and you are just going to take your needle. Oh yes, and I hold my needle like this. Kind of helps to, when I put my finger here, it helps to stop the needle from bending this part of the needle where it's weak. So I just kind of hold it like a pencil. Now, if you drive your needle all the way in, you'll catch a lot of the barbs that go through. So you'll actually catch more of the fibers per poke, and it's more efficient. You don't have to go the same speed as me, just work at the speed you want. I keep my fingers really close, but I'm used to not poking myself anymore because I've done this so much. But you'll want to keep your fingers away from your needle because it really does hurt to poke them, and everybody does it. So, if I go really fast, don't feel like you have to do that. That's just because I'm used to it. Don't worry about the shape that you're making right now. You're just basically trying to make your center of your owl's body. See, mine doesn't have much shape right now. I'm just trying to make this compact. You can make your owl as dense as you want it to be. And anything you're needle felting, you can really, it's really your own style. There's no right or wrong way to do it. So it's just playing around with it. I prefer to make a firmer shape because then I find it easier to add the detail to. Okay, so I'm going to just take my roving and I'm going to wrap this around it a couple times. Okay, like that. I'm going to take my 38 needle and I'm going to add this wool to that center core. So when you're making any felted creature, it's much like drawing in that you want to look at a basic shape of, like, so the animal, or the owl has, in this case, you'll see when we finish this, that it has kind of almost like an oval shaped body. But that's how drawing is. You just basically look at the shape of each component of whatever you're drawing. And that's where you start from, and then you add the details. So it's much like that. And this is very much like sculpting clay, except for instead of using your fingers, you use the needle. Sometimes I actually do use my fingers, like if I want to change the shape of something, I'll squeeze it and then poke right between where, so you can see, it's how I basically do a lot of my sculpting, by squishing and using my fingers. But you don't have to worry about that right now because we're not doing anything too detailed. We're doing some pretty basic shapes with this owl. It's actually a pretty good learning tool. Okay, so just going to keep poking. Now in this kit I've given you various types of wool, which I like to do because then you get a sense of what different types of wool are to work with. This one, I'm actually not even sure what it is. I got it from the wool mill, but I forgot to write down the name of the type of sheep. But it was just a white roving that I got, and then I dyed it a nice green color. As you can see, we are making sort of an egg shape. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. Just want to get a basic egg type structure shape. Needle felting is a pretty time consuming thing. I find it nice and relaxing. Now, don't worry if you're not making this quite as fast as I am. Trying not to go too fast, but just take your time. Pause the video if you need to. But right now I'm not really doing anything that requires too much skill. I think it should be pretty easy to get. So you want to just keep wrapping. And you can kind of see there's a bit of give there. It's not totally rock hard. I don't want it to be like a rock. Some people like theirs really hard, but right now for this I'm just going to make it so it's firm but has a bit of give. So I'm just wrapping it some more. I also go in this kind of circular rolling pattern. Kind of helps maintain the shape with the pressure against the foam. Okay, so I got some veggie matter there, but you know what? I'm just going to leave it. It's just a little piece of leaf. I'll pick it out. And yeah, so the counter pressure of your mat and rolling it helps to maintain the shape you're going for. Okay, so it's kind of, I made it kind of a log shape, so now I'm just going to go around the ends and round it off a bit. Needle felting is very much just about experimenting and feeling the wool, and feeling what it's like to poke it, and feeling like, yeah, it's pretty forgiving. You can do a lot of things with it, and it's not like so permanent. You can take something off, you can put wool over top of something, you can reshape something if you don't have it right, but it's pretty hard. It's not like you have to start all over if you make a mistake. Okay, so I'm going to end that video, but I just want you to keep doing that until you have the finished shape, and I will show you that. I will have shown you the finished shape before you started this video. Okay?